Energy and food price have hit inflation highest in 17 years to 19.64%. You're welcome to the Dailies on Echo Television International. I'm Sarah Elisha Dasham and I have Owolabi Tosin.
Morning, Sarah.
Morning, Tosin.
Morning. How is the weather?
Thank God, actually, from yesterday, the weather has been very chilly.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's...
So we need to keep ourselves warm.
Of course.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
we'll have to look at some of the stories that are, trending on our papers. And also remember, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. Do well to drop your comment relating the some of the issues we shall be looking at through the papers. And so let's start with the Daily Independent.
Okay, for the Daily Independent, federal government has ceded country to terrorists. Afenifere lament. And inflation hit 17-year high amid rising food prices. NICOM board 6 backing to short failed insurance coy. And on PDP crisis, I have no plan to resign, says Iyocha Ayu. While for digital switchover, federal government banks on NTA facilities for deployment. Boundaries between Nigeria, Niger, others artificial. This is coming from the federal government. And Ebonyi confirms outbreak of monkeypox. Kidnap kingpin Wadume bags 7 years jail term. And the last story we have on $11 billion contract. Nigeria levels fresh fraud claims against P&ID ahead of the trials. Kenya's Williams Ruto declared president, election in chaotic scenes. With details in page 7 and a picture story on the front page of the Daily Independent. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the People's Democratic Party's presidential candidate, Ahmed Fintiri, the governor Adamawa State, and Ifeanyi Okowa, the governor Delta State, and also the PDP vice presidential candidate during the reception of the All Progressive Congress declaring members in Adamawa into the PDP at Ribadu Square in Yola, Adamawa State. That's all on the Daily Independent.
Thank you, Tosi. Let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. Still on PDP crisis, you can't decide for a presidential candidate, says McCarthy. You can read more of that on page 6. And Afenifere accuses Buhari government of ceding Nigeria to terrorists. More of that story can be found on page 4. The big story, the big story said 19.6% inflation, more people become poor. Experts are warning, and the writer following that story defies interest rate hike, rattles analysts. Surges to 19.6% higher since 2005. Figures reflection of more scary future, and Okon saying civil servant must hit purchasing power very weak. Suspend telecoms breakage tax, says Owolaki. And we're having here rein in the 19.7 trillion ways and means loan to federal government, gobbing inflation recipe for recession, high unemployment, economists insist. And I'd like to read a little of that story. Said Nigeria's inflation rate has, defied monetary tightening, hit 19.64% in July, a level not seen in over 1.5 decades. The bombshell was dropped yesterday by the Statistics General of the Federation and Chief Executive Officer, National Bureau of Statistics, Prince, when he released the Consumer Price Index for the July 2022 in Abuja. Though experts insist the economy may still be going through the time lag inquiry before the effect of the monetary tightening measures, it's left in the inflation. Others warn that the supply side factors during inflation are still active, hence the future could be scary. And we just hope that something will be done about that, because we've also heard that as a result of the election pressure that have actually led to this inflation on energy and also food price. So I hope something will be done about that. It's not because we're having election that we begin to have food hunger, hunger strike and all that happening in the nation, because when people are hungry, this will now give an added advantage to politicians that would like to buy votes as a result of that, because people are hungry, so they can do anything just to have their meal for that time. But I just hope something will be done, and all the experts will be able to read the weather, know what is expected to be able to avoid such from happening. Downside of the Guardian newspaper, Niger Delta leader Ayubi alleged neglect of Ondo mandate areas by the NDDC. And Fulani Airlight disowned Meati Allah's statements on Obey. Catholic group rejects Lalon apology, tells the governor to resign. And you can read more of that on page 45, because we could record the story concerning the DG that was given to him. And the Catholics have said his apology is not accepted because he wrote a letter apologizing that he shouldn't have used the Pope. But they said they are against that, and they said he should take a 40-day prayer walk and also resign as the DG. So we'll just wait to see what the governor is going to do about that, whether he's going to, resign as the DG of the APC, or he will actually take that 40-day prayer walk. We'll just keep our fingers crossed and see what will happen at the end of the day. And that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
And for the New Telegraph, CBN Nigeria owes IMF, World Bank, African Development Bank $18.96 billion. Commitment 47.4% total of the $39.97 billion debt. OPS warns of dire consequences as July inflation hits 19.64%. Details can be found in page 5 of the New Telegraph paper. And Orji Uzor Kalu said, I used revenue from cattle markets to fight insecurity as governor. And we see they are preparing different means and ways they can fight issue of insecurity. And we see where he's saying while he was a governor, he used the revenue gotten from the cattle market to fight insecurity. We just look out for ways other governors can look out for ways and proper means they can fight this issue of insecurity. We see where they talk about the volunteer state policing in different states. We just hope that they have a drawing board, go back to their drawing board and look out for ways insecurity can be fought, because we can't just depend solely on the federal government. We should not fold our arms and wait for the federal government to do something. Even while they prepare to do something, even while they plan to do something, we also need to do something, because every day we keep recording issues of death in different places in different states. So we need to look out for ways as a state government, local government chairman, how we can protect people, we can protect lives and properties of people that lives in our environs. And Uyocha Ayu says, on PDP crisis, I have not resigned and no plans to do so. The national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Senator Uyocha Ayu, has declared he has no intention of resigning from his position over the current crisis which has engulfed the party. Ayu, in a statement on Monday through his special assistant on communication and strategy, Simon Imobo, said that he intends to see out the 4-year mandate given to him by the PDP. He made the declaration amidst reports that the camp of Rivers State governors Nyesom Wike has demanded his resignation as part of the solution to the crisis affecting the PDP. The current crisis facing the PDP stems from the emergence of Atiku Abubakar as the party's 2023 presidential candidate and the subsequent emergence of Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa as his running mate. Amidst the ongoing efforts to resolve the matter arising, Wike is alleged to have demanded Ayu's resignation so the PDP national chairman and its presidential candidate will not be from the same region. But Ayu's media aide on Monday tweeted that his principal intends to see out his mandate and has no intention of resigning. This is still as a result of the internal crisis within the People's Democratic Party. But we saw where they said that no matter what, it's going to be resolved. And even Uyocha Ayu said it's a normal thing that you're supposed to experience in times of election like this. But we just say they need to resolve whatever issue they have with amongst themselves. Because when you aspire to be the presidential candidate, when you aspire to take the mantle of leadership concerning the presidency 2023, then whatever the issue is, they need to resolve it amongst themselves, and it needs to be resolved amicably. Despite the ongoing efforts and even the efforts to settle these issues amongst them, we just hope that it will be settled very fast, because before you can take mantle of leadership, then you need to keep your home intact. And if the home is not intact, then how can you take care of the country? We see the issue of insecurity, we see the issue of of peace being disrupted in our nation, then talk about a party where peace is disrupted. So you should serve as an example. If you want to take that mantle, then we should see the example just from you people amongst yourself. And we have court sentences Wadume, 2 others to 7 years imprisonment. Kenya Vice President Ruto wins presidential election and Buhari congratulates the president-elect. We have the Chief of Staff Gambari saying boundaries between Nigeria and neighbors artificial, describes Buhari's diplomatic policy as concentric. The Europeans in Congress of Berlin just took a piece of paper and were drawing lines across places where they have never been. Separated people who should be united and uniting people perhaps who should be separated. And this is coming from the Chief of Staff concerning the boundaries between Nigeria and neighboring countries, saying it is artificial. But we see the bond between Nigeria and even neighboring country. For example, we have that of Niger Republic, and we see the bond between the Nigeria and even the Niger Republic. We see the way we share things in common, like we have the rail transportation that was linked straight to Maradi for them to have a smooth transportation. And also, when you go to Kano State, Sele, with this, you see where it's easy for people in Niger to easily come into Nigeria, and we have the boundary, and they come into this country. They come into the country freely. You have even in our popular markets, our terminus markets, even on the plateau. There were times where you see all these Niger people, even in the markets. You can't even move freely. They hold you and begging for money or anything from you. So we see that they come into our country freely. If there's no bond and if there's no the cordial relationship, we won't have them coming into our country easily like that. And we see where our borders are opened for these people. We see where our pipeline vandalism, we see where our petrol is taken to all these countries freely. We see where we have the electricity, we have the gridlock, we experience gridlock in our country, but we give them power and they have the power 24 hours. So why would we say it's artificial? Whatever needs to be done well. If it is artificial, then we should not see this smooth relationship. We saw where Mr. President gave them a huge amount of money for security vehicles, and we saw that these vehicles were luxurious vehicles, not security vehicles. So we see all these things, we see the relationship between our country and them, and we see what is being done to these people, because we try to foster the smooth relationship amongst ourselves, and why we suffer here. So when the Chief of Staff is saying that it is artificial, then we need more answers to all this, because what we are seeing, what Nigerians are seeing, is not an artificial relationship. We know what an artificial relationship look like, and we know what a real relationship look like. So we need more answers to what Gambari is saying concerning this artificial relationship. What needs to be done well. If we need to look out for ways we can grow as a nation, then we should depend and we should invest more on how we can grow. We see issue of insecurity. We see issues where people are preparing ways that we can fight this issue of insecurity. We see where our borders are no longer safe, where people come in, terrorists come into our country easily and kidnap people. We see that of the train attack, where people who were released said these people are Chadians, they are not Nigerians. And even Mr. President said Fulani of Nigeria don't use the Fulani of Nigeria are just known to use their stick just for their cattle, but the terrorist group, Mr. President said they are not Fulani of Nigerians. So where are these people coming from? Where are they? Where do they come through? Where do they follow and come to the country easily? That there's no means where they are being checked. So we just need answers to all this. If it is artificial, then we should not see this bond. We should not see this smooth bond between ourselves and even these people. So we just need more answers coming from the Chief of Staff.
Yeah, so I think possibly that is why he said it's artificial, because he spoke about the boundaries. When you talk about the boundaries, definitely the boundaries, when you said they are artificial, automatically it means that it is not permanent, and that is why we even have the railway that connect Nigeria to Niger. That makes it that it's definitely artificial, because we are one. The president stated the fact that he has relatives that are in Niger.
His
that
cousins.
means cousins that are in Niger. He said we are one and together, and that was why he sent those cars over to to Niger to help them, protect them, and also to fight insecurity. And just like you said, I believe that charity begins at home. And if the chief of army staff is telling us that the boundaries are artificial, definitely he's trying to tell us that means they can have a smooth movement from Niger to Nigeria, because this is my understanding of what it means to be artificial. If you're telling us that it is not a permanent thing, it's an artificial thing, that means they can come in when they want to and go out when they want to come to do. But then how do we tend to now control terrorist movement from Niger or from Chad or from Cameroon? How do we tend to control all those things that come into the country? Is there no check? Is there no balance over all this? So regardless of what the chief of army staff is saying, he's describing Buhari's policy as being diplomatic and whatever, we are going to justify it. Yes, he's the president. He knows what is best because he's the leader of the country. But I believe you also have to check on the interest of Nigerians first and foremost, because you are not just the president to one person, or you're not just the president to one state. You're a president to over 200 million Nigerians with different religious groups. Not just to the Fulanis, not just to the Christian, but to every other person that is living in Nigeria. So regardless of what the boundaries are between the neighboring country, I think it should not affect our security, it should not affect our peace, it should not affect our economy in any way possible. So we just keep our fingers crossed. More on that.
Yes, thank you very much, Sele. Federal government levels fresh fraud claims against P&ID ahead of the $11 billion trial. Pension fund whistleblowers right AGF demands 65 billion naira reward for recovery of 1.3 trillion naira. NSITF claims termite earth payments voucher as Senate probes 17 billion naira spending. And on 2023, Unite Against Looters, Amechi urges youth and women. Slams APC, PDP over same fate candidacy, disrespect for equity and balance. Religion shouldn't bring enmity among Nigerians. This is coming from Akere Dolu with details in page 2 and 27 of the New Telegraph. A study here says poor sleep quality bad for lungs disease, and details can be found in page 26. No matter what you do, you have to create time for sleep because quality rest is very important. That's all on the New Telegraph.
And on Nigerian News Direct, we have the MSME's financing. BOI concludes another €1 billion landmark transaction. E-payment hit 204.5 trillion naira in 7 months. This is coming from the NIPSS. We're going to offer free pediatric surgery for 200 children. Other story which is still on the paper, the big story say outrage over 17 years highest inflation rate of the 19.64%. Political leadership reason for the continuous increase. This is coming from Oyeduku. Current administration has brought regurgitative policy on economies and governance. This comes from Odewale. Federal government must restudy concept paper of Operation Feed the Nation to induce investors. And inflationary pressures weaken purchasing power of citizens. This is coming from Muda Yusuf. With more of these found on page 3 of the Nigerian News Direct. NITDA ICPC to hold 2022 IFF's hectored seek Nigerians' participation. And on ASU strike 6 months after businesses shut down on varsity campus. Bandit attack Catholic priest to grow kidnap for ransom business. This is coming from Huriwa. And they have been talking about the issue that the bandits have been attacking Catholic priests, especially. I begin to wonder, what do the priests have to do with all this that is happening? So we just hope something will be done to protect the life of all the priests and even our cleric in the nation. ITA, APM Terminal, others own federal government $753 million. 1.61 billion naira. This is coming from the MPI, and they are lamenting. We have 2 picture stories on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct, so you can do well to get the paper and read any of the stories that is of interest to you.
On the Nation newspaper, NCDC confirms 15 monkeypox cases. Electricity workers set to battle the TCN, and Osun OSIEC chairman alleges threat to life. Commercial activities pick up in the southeast. Details can be found in page 5. And police arrest man over alleged kidnap threat on Oyo Varsity student. 19.64% inflation rate, highest ever in 17 years, says the NBS. Rate jumps by 1.82% in 1 month. World Bank ex-LCCI chief worried about the whole issue of the inflation. And Ayu to Wike and others, I have no plan to quit PDP chair now. I was elected for 4 years. An absence of Atiku's men stalls peace parley. Federal government not sincere about ending ASU strike, says ASU, as union meets education ministers and others today. The national president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, on Monday stated that the union will meet with the federal government today, which is Tuesday. According to Osodeke, the union and the federal government are meeting to address his demand, which led to the ongoing strike. The ASU president, speaking on when the union will end its strike, said the decision of the federal government will determine the next step. Osodeke, while speaking during an interview, said ASU will call off the strike if the federal government agreed to his demand at the meeting. And said, we know that today makes it the 19th day after President Muhammadu Buhari gave the Minister of Education, Adamu, ultimatum of 2 weeks to call off the strike. And we know that right from the inception of this ASU strike, they've been going back and forth on having meeting with ASU and to beg ASU to call off the strike. And definitely people backlashed him. And we saw where parents are saying they are tired of having their student at home, their children at home for this long without the strike, without a negotiation between the federal government and ASU on how they can resolve the strike. This is the election era, and we know that the government, they are distracted with what is happening in the election. They are not worried about what students are going through. We saw where politicians are saying that they can't disburse that large amount of money to resolve this strike, and we see where their children are the ones graduating from schools in foreign nations. And we see where today now we have this meeting where ASU and the federal government are going to meet on a round table on ways they can resolve this issue. We just hope, and we prayerfully say, we just hope that they will come to a lasting negotiation. They will come to a lasting solution concerning this. We see where students who just try to, because of the strike, try to look out for means they can help themselves to keep themselves busy. We see where they are being killed. We see students being killed as a result of this ASU strike. And we see where parents are saying, if not for this strike, their students will not meet up with their untimely death. And we see where the governments are not even worried. Talk more of even the Minister of Education. What he came up to say was that the allocation given to education is little. He was aware of all this allocation before he emerged that position, and before he was given the appointment, he gave out ways he can use that small allocation in court to enhance growth and development, even in educational ministry. And now we see that students are now on strike. We see where that of colleges, even in Abuja, because of issue of insecurity, they are going back. The government have told them to go back home. Schools are shut down in Abuja and even in other states because of this issue of insecurity. And now we see also are saying it's not all about even the money, but security needs to be guaranteed. Infrastructure needs to be in place in all the schools. What is the essence of calling off this strike and they go back to school and there are no infrastructure for them to even have a smooth educational calendar? What is the means of calling this where the security is not even guaranteed for the students? We just hope that today, while they will meet with the federal government, they will come to a lasting solution on how they can call off the strike, because it is long overdue. Sele, these students have been at home for over 6. This is the 6th month, yes, where students have been at home. It is frustrating even in the part of the student, because they are tired of staying at home. You need to interact with the students, and you get to hear from them that they are really tired of this, and they are losing hope even in the educational sector. They are losing hope even in the future of this country. We see when it's time for them to get jobs, jobs. We see some different kind of criteria, and even that is placed before them. Age is not by their side any longer, because as this strike keeps going this long, they keep on celebrating their birthday, and they are getting of age. And when we see job opportunity now, you say 22 years and below. How do you expect them to get all this job even with those age? Then you say you see where they'll say qualification and even experience. You give experience. Is it the strike that is the experience they're supposed to get, or is it when they try to even get experience and they are no longer safe? They are being killed with this experience they try to gather. We just hope something will be done. We just hope that the federal government will look into this plight of the students, look into the plight of parents who lost their loved ones even during this strike, and call off the strike and look out for ways they can resolve this issue. It is long overdue. Sure. This strike has been long overdue, and something needs to be done very fast. Students need to go back to school. Still on the Nation newspaper, Yobe North senatorial ticket, court adjourns Machina's suit against Lawan. And that's all on the Nation.
And on our Jezreel newspaper, defamation suit, publisher slams Silva over victory claim. With detail found on page 10 of our Jezreel newspaper. The big story on 2023, Fulani groups clash over Obi. Meati Allah doesn't speak for the entire Fulani. And other stories still on our Jezreel newspaper. We have Uba Sani Rufruit's report on bill renaming Kaduna State. Anchor borrowers, CBN disburses 75.9 billion naira loans to farmers in 2 months. And I hope that farmers have actually gotten this loan so that they'll be able to fight on this, food crisis in the nation. Nigeria's inflation rate surges to National Assembly. The Director General, the Brigade Officer of the Federation, Ben, disclosed this yesterday in Abuja at the training on the budget preparation using the Government Integrated Financial Management Information System. And you can read more of that on page 27. And I hope as the President will be presenting the proposal for next year, every sector that needs the right allocation of money should be given. You rightly mentioned what the Minister of Education said about the allocation given to education to be one of the lowest. So I hope that as the President will be presenting this proposal, we will look into the educational sector to make sure that the money allocated to it is quite good. We should look into our economy, look at the transport, look at the health sector, the welfare of our doctors, and also the infrastructure of the hospitals should be well taken care of. So I just hope all this will be reflected on the proposal that the President will be presenting September. And that's all on our Jezreel newspaper.
On the Matrix newspaper, Ogun PDP governorship appeal court rules in favor of Segun Showunmi. And on 2023, you will be lucky to have 200 Peter Obi supporters on Kaduna Street. This is coming from Governor Nasir El-Rufai as he mocked supporters of the Labour Party presidential candidate of Peter Obi over the proposed Kaduna rally. The governor dismissed the possibility of the rally gaining any transaction in Kaduna State. And we just hope it won't be like that of Nasarawa State, where the governor said they don't have any supporter of Peter Obi. And we saw the outcome where a million march protest was done. A million march supporters came out to the streets and they supported Peter Obi. We just hope that something like that will not happen in Kaduna State, where the governor here is saying it will barely find 200 supporters of Peter Obi, but it's left to people to support whoever they feel has the mandate for them come 2023. Nigeria's inflation rate hits 19.64% and highest in 17 years. Inside story of high-level deal presented to Tinubu, APC's presidential candidate. Expectations high as federal government and ASU meets today. If federal government agrees with us today, everything will be resolved. PPIS UTAS resolve issues. UK rising cost of living forcing Britons to part ways with pets. Ayu says no plan to resign. I will complete my tenure. And Oshun to hold local government poll on October 15. Buhari sent congratulatory message to Kenya William Ruto on election victory. And we have a picture story tagged terrorist in Lagos. Sani Gafar, a suspected male terrorist dressed in hijab, rescued from lynching at Ijora Badia in Lagos State. We need to put in more security effort, because to see where a man here is disguised as a woman and is known to be a terrorist. So security need to do more checking. We saw where the IGP yesterday said more security are being deployed in different states for them to check, even by the roadside, to check transporters and people who travel from one place to the other. And we just hope that this will be done, because to see where people now disguise to be females, for them not to be checked. But we just hope that the security will do more, because this is now an eye-opener where we see security disguising to be female and moving around freely. So something needs to be done, terrorists rather. So we just hope that something more will be done from this part of the security on how we can tame this issue of insecurity. And also on the Matrix, newspaper, we have the Nigeria's inflation rate hits 19.64% and the highest in 17 years. That's all on the Matrix paper.
Thank you so much, Tosi. Right at this moment, we'd like to take a time out so that we can actually open our phone lines to our callers and let us hear what your views are concerning the inflation rate being the highest in 17 years. What did you feel about the PDP internal crisis and also other issues that we have actually brought to light this morning? Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. Still the Dailies on Echo Television International. I'm Sela Elisha Dasham and Owolabi Tosin have been doing this with me. Thank you, Tosin. Yes, we've been looking at various stories on our papers, from the internal crisis in PDP and also to the inflation that has been the highest. 19.64% is quite very, very high. So we'd like you to come and let us hear what your views are. Do you feel it's the election pressure that has made that, or did you feel that it's as a result of insecurity? So many things are actually happening that have actually led to the energy and food hike in the nation. So we would like to hear what your views are, and you can also drop your comment on our Facebook page and our YouTube, and we'll do well to read them. I think we have one comment on Facebook that's coming from Elijah David, and he said, "Good morning, I love you all. We love you more, Elijah." Thank you so much for that encouragement. Let me move on now to the next paper, which is the Daily Sun newspaper. Federal government disrespecting UN by keeping Kanu in detention. This is coming from the Igbo youth. You can read more of that story on page 26. For those who are familiar with the story, we know where the UN said Kanu should be, taken out of detention, but the federal government have actually given their own terms and conditions. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed to see what will be the end result of this at the end of the day. And we're having NASENI trains 3,700 youths on modern farming. Detail can be found on page 25. Ayu calls Wike bluff, says he won't resign, denies submitting resignation letter to David Mark. Rivers governor berates traitors, accused some elders of gang up. And you can read more of that story on page 7. Nigeria's inflation hit 19.64%, the highest since 2015. This is coming from the NBS. And NCDC confirms additional 13 new cases of Lassa fever, with more of the story found on page 27. INEC begins display of voters registered in Oyo and Lagos. Nationwide blackout looms as electricity workers shut down services Wednesday, which is tomorrow. And this really is sad one, Tosi, because we've been having some part, or most part of the nation right now, we're going through the electricity loom. There have been a blackout. And if you ask questions, just like we've always said, we are not just after the excuses you will give us, but we need you working We need actions to back up this. If we're having the electricity workers starting a strike tomorrow, so you can now see that almost every sector is going on strike. The educational sector on strike. Aviation, we're already looking at the first class going outside the country, which is 1 million. Not everybody can afford to actually use the airplane right now. We're still looking at our various colleges, which is still under the education. We saw where our resident doctors are on strike as a result of their allowances not being given to them. And now we're seeing the electricity will be going. It's a matter of time. Road transport, there was a time where truck drivers said they were going on strike. Why? Because the roads were bad. And this will now bring to my begin to ask questions. And that is why I remember before the show started, I asked a question. I said, how do these ministers feel when you begin to give a bad report about your sector? That shows incapacity in your own end. That means you are not capable of handling that position. Because if you are capable of handling that situation or that position, you should be able to handle situations that come your way. You should be able to have the 4 eyes and say that, okay, this thing is about to happen. What can I do in my own capacity before I hand it over to my superior to see that they do something about this? If a particular allocation of money is given onto it, is your mandate to follow the agency and people you work with to be sure that that money is being used properly. But when the money is being given to you is not used properly, definitely that is where we see misappropriation of funds. Here we are seeing on the paper where the sector is saying that termites have actually eaten the payment vouchers, and such kind of excuses coming on. You begin to ask, is it that there are no pesticides that you could actually spread around there that will hinder pesticide from actually destroying these papers? And this is how, before you realize it, corruption is eating deep and deep and deep and deep. Presently, most of the power plants right now are lying idle, and we still want to sell them out, yet we don't have electricity. We saw, I think, was it last month or last 2 months, where we saw that even some media station, some companies have to shut down. Why? Because they can't even afford the diesel. There's no electricity. People have to resort to either the petrol or the diesel to be able to run their businesses. And so if you cannot even afford the diesel, right now kerosene is 800 naira per liter. How many people can even afford that? There are states whereby you are not even allowed to use the firewood or even the charcoal because they can't cut down the trees. So now you can see that this is why we're actually having this inflation rate right now, because you're beginning to make life very, very unbearable. And I remember saying clearly here, I said, how excited will you be that when you're stepping down, people cannot remember you for any good work whatsoever. Rather, people associate you with hardship. So we just hope that something will be done. Whatever the plight of these electricity workers is, it will be met so that we'll be able to have a smooth running electricity, and also the nation, every other sector will fall in place, just like I said. Okay. Sorry. Hello, we have the caller from Ports. Good morning. Hello, are you there?
The issue of this, the one you said about the weekend, yes, don't understand that language, blues. What is the meaning of that language?
I don't get your question clearly. I don't know what he means, the meaning.
Of what language, please? He's asking the meaning of this language. So we're yet to know what language, please.
Okay, if you can call us back and clarify your question so that we can actually answer you properly. So we just hope more will be done on the nation, Tosin. Still on the Daily Sun newspaper, we saw here Oshun holds the local government poll October 15, and Ohanize applaud Obiozu at 80, hails him as the man of uncommon intellect. And on insecurity, coalition summon northern governors, demand explanation on inability of security agency to tackle the worsened security challenges. Vows not to vote along religious line. With detail of the story found on page 6. Downside of the paper, Anambra establishes family court to tackle domestic violence. This is the right step in the right direction, and I hope other states will also take the lead and have, a family court that can actually address some of these domestic violence we see in the nation. And that's all on the Daily Sun newspaper.
On the Leadership newspaper, on monkeypox, Nigeria records 60 new cases in 19 states. Interest rate hike likely as Nigeria's inflation hits 19.64%. Serap asks INEC to allow 7 million Nigerians complete voters registration. And the price of cooking gas increases by 105%. Darkness looms as electricity workers embark on strike tomorrow. And national economy goes weekly, August 29. Naseni deploys technologies to train 3.
Sorry, Tosi. Hello, Father Benjamin. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning, sir. Please go on with your contribution.
God bless you.
Thank you.
I must say, thank you so much. I must say, I am so appreciative of what you guys are doing there. You, our sister Sele, and the other young lady. Your boldness and your doggedness in bringing out the truth. The Secretary of the government says that the boundary is an artificial issue. Who is then fooling who? Why should the boundary between Nigeria, and all those areas be make porous for those people to come in? Have you ever seen any country where, even within the ECOWAS, where other citizens will just have free entrance and thereby escaping criminals and all those people, killing people? And why is it that all the killing in Plateau, all the killing in Benue, all the killing in other part of the country, the security operative cannot go in swift action to find them? But when it is in the south, either it happened in Benue or it happened in the east here, you will see all the military apparatus from A to Z, they will just sweep up, and that's when they are going to do their work. Who is deceiving who? Why? And our president told us that Jonathan government do not have clue. It's Julius government. Are these people now, do they have any clue of what is happening? Are they aware that human beings are dying every day? Are they aware of the lopsided prosecution of their target audience? If any little thing happen here now, you will see them, they will go overnight and make sure they find the people out. Those who are killing people in Plateau, those who are killing people in Benue, those who are killing people in what they call it, Kaduna, are they not human beings? Are they not the same people that kept the border open? Can't they trace them? My sister, we need God to help us. This is a premeditated issue. Let's not deceive ourselves. But we know with our prayer, God will see us through. Miete Allah just recently got up and condemn one Peter Obi that they shouldn't vote him is a supporter of Biafra. But Miete Allah has never condemned any of those Fulani herdsmen that are killing people in Benue every day. And the governor has been shouting, crying. They don't condemn any that are being kidnapped and massacred. Who is fooling who? Brethren, let's tell the truth as it is. I doubt if there is one. I doubt. May God help us.
Amen. Thank you so much, Father Benjamin, for that contribution. You actually, hit some of this the situations right on the head. But I just hope that the right authorities are aware of that, especially that artificial boundary between neighboring countries. Will do something about it to curtail insecurity.
Naseni deploys technologies to train 700 youths in modern farming. And also PDP crisis deepens as IU calls Wike's bluff, says he has 4 years tenure, denies submitting resignation letter to David Mark. Party leaders meet on Atiku and Wike reconciliation on Friday, and that's all on the Leadership newspaper.
And on the Punch newspaper, fuel subsidy hit 1.593 trillion naira. Refinery rehabilitation gobs 54 billion naira, with detail found on page 17. Our intervention fund drops to 2.9 trillion naira, with detail found on page 16. And we have 165 killed. Awareness call raises, and with more that's concerning the Lassa fever cases. Federal government and ASU meet today. Strike enters 183 days, with more of the story found on page 23. And Wike have accuses Rivers elders of gang up concerning the running mate that he was not given. And the 19.6% inflation rate, federal government warns against the acute hunger Sierra Leone crisis. Inflation hits 17-year all-time high. Nigerians to pay more for consumables. Nigeria going Zimbabwe way. Nobody is doing anything. This is coming from the DG and ACC. Politicians concerned about the 2023 elections, not the dying economy. This is coming from the civil society and also experts, and I hope we'll do something about that. Picture stories here, we can see the Amoteku train Ondo recruits vow to tackle criminals. I'm really happy with the steps that the Amotekus are taking, and I hope other states will take the same step too. Police kill 5 kidnappers, abducted Redeemer student escapes, with detail found on page 4 and 5. And man dies in motel after meeting online lover. And killings of innocent Nigerians, Afenifere tells Buhari, with more found on page 26 of the Punch newspaper. And that's all on the Punch newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune, experts decry Nigerians' penchant for abandoned building. Say over 50,000 buildings valued at 9.5 trillion naira wasting in Nigeria. For the PDP crisis, I have not resigned. I have 4-year mandate. This is from Iyocha Ayu. As Atiku Wike camp fails to hold reconciliation meeting. Atiku in fresh move to galvanize support in Southwest and to receive defecting SDP members in Ekiti. And Shegun Oni, the governor, is saying, I'm not involved. Police arrest 30-year-old over attempt to abduct 3 university students in Oyo. William Ruto defeats Raila Odinga, wins Kenya's presidential election. Cooking gas price rises by over 100% year on year. Expert wants country refineries fixed. Electricity workers set to strike tomorrow, and Naseni deploys technologies to train 3,700 youth in modern farming. That's all on the Nigerian Tribune.
And on this day newspaper, budget deficit, public debt hamper fiscal sustainability. This is coming from the CBN. Raising food commodity price drive inflation to 19.64%, with more found on page 6. Federal government raises fresh fraud claim against P&ID ahead of the $11 billion trial. Nigeria moves to prove the firm's secured contract through bribery and lies. And Ayu is repeating, which is on all our papers, I've not resigned and I won't resign. Say he's elected for 4-year term. Atiku, Okowa, Sambo, Fitiri and others receive 160,000 defectors from APC. Presidential hopeful says his mission in politics is to serve the people. Wike berated party elders for allegedly ganging up against him. And PDP alleges 20 local government areas in Katsina are not secure for election. And I hope something will be done about these 20 local government areas. We don't want to have an issue where as a result of the insecurity. If this is what is already coming out, then we have to do something about these 20 local government areas in Katsina. Downside of the paper, Afenifere is saying Nigerians living in fear and uncertainty. You can read more of that on page 12. And we can see Atiku, the presidential candidate of PDP, why I want to serve you. And believe you me, Nigerians will hold you accountable for every word you say. So do not just give us any blind promises, but be sure to live up to that.
On the Vanguard newspaper, police custom officers clearing agent buy Colorado and Tramadol from us. This is from the drug peddlers that were arrested. Millions of Nigerians taken out of poverty through works and housing ministry. This is coming from Fashola. An election fever pressures inflation rate to 16 years high. At Port Harcourt, on Odili's birthday overshadows anticipated meeting and have not resigned, no plan to do so, says Ayu. Oyinlola tipped to be Atiku's campaign DG, giving Wike's chairmanship slot will resolve the crisis. This is from Senator Okon. And Wike won't leave PDP. He's a principal politician. This is also from Daily Momodu. Fulani group disowns Mieti Allah statement on Peter Obi. And Victor Uwai's force family disown remembrance program alleges forgery of will. Blackout looms as electricity workers begin strike tomorrow. Picket TCN today. And gunmen invade Kogi market, kill one and abduct another, demand 20 million naira ransom. We have also the Olu of Warri's first anniversary celebration, and we have a column inside the Vanguard newspaper. Do well to visit to look out for stories that interest you.
Thank you so much, Tosi, for doing this with me.
Thank you,
thank you
Selen.
so much also to our viewers for always making it a day with us. Thank you for all our callers, and also to Elijah for dropping his comment on Facebook. Until we come your way again tomorrow, to have a blessed day ahead.